Welcome back to episode 6 of Wyandot Lake, our Planet Coaster 2 water park. Today we are going to be wrapping up construction on all the buildings in Lakeside, our first themed area within our water park. It'll be the first of the 4 that we will have done before we open up the park. I'm also going to talk a little bit about my thoughts on the game as we kind of go through the episode, kind of what my thoughts are on some of the recent updates and kind of what things I would like to see added to the game as we move forward. I will say the list is getting shorter and shorter. Frontier has done a fantastic job of adding in assets, and with all the updates that have been coming out, kind of getting a lot of the things I think myself and a lot of other people want to see in the game. But there's still some things that I would like to see in, and I think some other people maybe would as well, kind of based on what I'm seeing online. The brick structure there on the right, you kind of barely see it there, that we just kind of started with. So that is going to be a pump house. Obviously, you have to have the pool touching kind of the circle within the pump house. I'm going to take it a step further with the park, though, in that I want pretty much every inch of a pool to be covered by that, right? Just because your filters are going to be throughout a pool, and so I kind of feel like it should be. I also think that would actually be kind of a cool thing in the game, is making sure that they are all covered by the pump houses, the entire pools, just to kind of make sure that they were as clean as possible. I also want at least one dedicated pump per pool slash slide. I don't know a ton about water parks, but just kind of my gut instinct, I kind of feel as if having different pumps, or having one pump serving multiple pools, or multiple slide complexes, just doesn't feel right. My gut instinct is just that they probably have one pool per pump, or one pump per pool, I should say. So that's kind of how we want to approach this here. Okay, so we are going to have kind of 7 main areas within the lakeside here. We're going to have 2 pump houses, and actually, I'm going to have to go back. It's kind of one of those things we'll do before we open the park, but I'm going to have to go back and add more pump houses. We don't really have a dedicated one for the water slide, the Whispering Waters, which you can kind of see over there on the side, or that entire pool being covered, kind of like I just talked about. So we'll go back and we'll redo that, but we're gonna have at least 2. I think it's gonna end up being 4 or 5. But with the pump houses, we're going to have our food and beverage location, which I think we'll finish up here in this episode. And then we're also going to have a drink stand, and that's what we're working on right here. So this is kind of our little soda, kind of our little refreshment building. I've talked about having our offices built in here, and I think this is one of those areas where I think this building actually is the F&B department's kind of offices. I think you'll see when we kind of put the door in the back, that's what we put here. We're also going to have our bathroom changing dryers, which was completed in the last episode, in that kind of big building over there. And then our guest services, which we also did. And then we're going to do a merchandise stand. The merchandise stand is probably the one that I wasn't super thrilled with how it came out. It's a really big building. You'll see when we kind of get to that here later in this episode. And I don't know. It's just something about it just doesn't feel right. It's another one that I think kind of, as we expand the area, is maybe a location that you could see kind of get pulled out, and maybe we put a slide complex in there or something else. Also with the introduction of actual gift shops, which is coming out here probably within just a couple of days of this episode getting released, you'll see kind of some of that, and that might be a really good place to kind of replace what we have with that. And I'm sure there's going to be some other things coming that we could put upstairs because it ends up being a two-story building. And so I'm sure by the time we get to a point that we'd want to redo that, there's probably going to be some other things in the game, and we can get creative if need be. With the exception, speaking about the buildings and kind of the height, they're all going to be 2 stories, with the exception of our QSR, our quick service restaurant location, just because that allows us to really kind of make everything around it be offices and really kind of have that office feel with it. So I'm really excited about that, and the back area actually comes out pretty well, especially once we finish up the next area, which we won't get to for a few episodes, but once we get there, I'm really happy with how that kind of turned off. I will say this is not going to be the permanent location of our offices. I think I've talked since the first episode about wanting to do a dry park as well, and this is kind of one of those locations where a dry park, you would want to move your offices because they are going to be kind of one, and so you might have some smaller dedicated, but I kind of envision it as kind of being one entity, and so we are going to have the offices kind of move eventually. So that also opens up some possibilities for expansion once we get there, because we'd then have a bunch of empty 2-story old office buildings. So we'll deal with that once we get to. But yeah, so wrapping up this building here, and then we'll head over to the merchandise stand here in a second. I do love the gutters. I feel like I got away from the gutters a little bit on the second themed area, so I might need to go back in. Although I also feel like some of the buildings, maybe the gutters just didn't work. So I don't know. As we kind of go through, let me know what you think. Am I missing any details? Other details that I'm spending a little too much time focusing on? But just kind of let me know what you guys think. So let's talk about the game here a little bit. We've got a little bit of time. I have to say, I've been going back and playing Planet Coaster 1 a little bit. Before the May update, the game was glitching out a little bit for me. It wasn't crashing or anything. I've been very fortunate, kind of knock on wood, that I don't have any issues with that. But it was having issues with the advanced move and the axis, and so it's kind of not unplayable, but pretty unplayable, especially for the stuff that I wanted to do. So I kind of stepped away from it for a little while, and I have to say the graphics in Planet Coaster 2, they look fantastic, but I didn't really realize just how much more incredible they were compared to the first game until I kind of went back and started playing that. So I absolutely love the graphics. It just looks wonderful. I've seen some videos and photos online of kind of what it looks like with rain and different sunlight, and I'm really excited to see that. When we start opening the park, playing with the park opened, we are going to let the day-night cycle run. So we'll really get to kind of see it. For right now, I just kind of leave it set at 11 o'clock, noon, just because it doesn't really have shadows, and so I can kind of see a little bit better as we go through. But once we play the game, we'll let that happen, and I'm sure it'll just look even better than it already does. It definitely had its flaws to start, and I credit Frontier. I'm not a big gamer. I don't really know a ton about gaming culture per se, or kind of what are good companies, what are bad companies, whatever. But so I don't really know Frontier's reputation as a company. I honestly don't think I could tell you anything that they've produced other than the Planet Coaster series and then Planet Zoo as well. But I think they did a great job acknowledging the flaws at the beginning of the game, because I think there certainly were a lot of flaws, and it definitely kind of felt like it was a half-baked game, and they've done a really great job at kind of developing the game, supporting the game, When they released the first DLC with I think it was the very first update or the second update, uh, there was a lot of outrage, and very much deservedly so. And I think they saw that, they took it in stride, they said they made a mistake, and um, they've been really striving to make it right. And so I'm really excited to see kind of the things that they can continue to come up with. I think this update is probably going to be the last free update we see. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we get a few more. Um, but I think this is probably it before we see a DLC. And maybe we'll see um, a DLC and we'll get some free content down the road or with it. We'll kind of see how that comes out. But really, really, really excited with the path that the game has gone down. I will say also, some of the recent updates, especially with pathing, the path height is a game changer. So to kind of let you in on a little bit of what my plans and kind of what some of the things I envision for the park are, I've talked about 4 themed areas, 3 outside and 1 in the middle. In that middle themed area is going to kind of be an artificial island, I guess you could say, in that you're going to have a lazy river that kind of surrounds it. It kind of would be if you drew a big circle, it's the center of the circle. And so the way it's going to work is you're going to have foliage kind of going along the pathway. And you'll be able to kind of better see the pathway I'm talking about. Once we kind of start getting into the next area, you'll start to kind of see that pathway form. But you'll have the kind of the main pathway, then you'll have foliage on both sides. On the left side will be this area, and then on the right side you'll have more foliage, and then the lazy river. And it'll kind of come out in a couple spots where you'll be able to get in and out. But then it will also have bridges that'll go up and over the lazy river, and then I kind of envisioned some more foliage, and having a lot of our kind of back of house, our break areas, maintenance area kind of tucked in there as well, before more foliage, and then it'll open up into the big circular themed area. And I've kind of picked out that theme, I think. That could always change. As more assets are added to the game. I think the pirate update, as I'm saying, this is something that's really, really, really intriguing to me. Could possibly fit really well. There's the path you can't see there. But as of right now, it's not pirate. It's a different theme. It's a theme that I've had kind of picked out since the beginning. But you'll have the path. You'll have to have the path getting over there. And with the latest update, and this is kind of why I'm okay with this kind of having been a slower build process, is the lower path heights. And so we can now go in, and with that path being lower, it just makes it so much easier, I think, and with invisible paths as well. I think it was a video, I'm not sure, but I saw a video, I'm pretty sure it was a video, but the other day where somebody had essentially created a wooden bridge that was kind of a wooden plank bridge using the invisible paths, and then a bunch of like the little wooden planks in the game. I loved that, and quite frankly, as I've kind of envisioned what this area would look like, that is exactly what I've been wanting to do. And so I am so excited. Real quick here, this is kind of one of the areas where you talk about the game improving. Those original lights, I honestly think fit so much better. I still think they fit so much better than what ended up here. But with the glitch, with them looking at the side, and it went like that for like 2 or 3 updates, I think. It just was not something that fit, and so we ended up going with these instead. But those other ones I think worked so much better, and so we still might go back and change those. But back to the kind of the bridge, that kind of wooden look is exactly what I've always kind of envisioned, and so I'm super excited to get to that. And also, we're not going to get to the dry park for a little while, but I've got the itch to really kind of build some roller coasters, and I might go off to the side and just create kind of a park for fun and build a couple roller coasters just to kind of have some fun and see how the system works. But what I'm really excited for, and I don't know if it's going to work for water slides or not, but is the on-ride photos. If they can get those into water slides, I don't know. If do water parks have on-ride photos on slides? I really don't know the answer to that. If you know the answer to that, let me know in the comments. But that is something that I have been clamoring for. I said I was going back and kind of working on some Planet Coaster 1 stuff. I was doing that before they announced the on-ride photos. And one of the things that I was even doing, not even knowing that this was coming into Planet Coaster 2, was trying to kind of put simulated on-ride photos into some of the rides I was working on within the park. And so to have that is just so exciting. The Frontier Unleashed, I think is what it's called, that they did a few weeks ago that kind of showed those and showed the exit shop. Man, that's just going to be so cool. So shout out to Frontier, credit Frontier for the work they've been putting in. Just been absolutely incredible. So super excited for that. While there are a ton of great things with the game, and Frontier's done a great job, there are certainly some areas that I feel like the game is still lacking, or areas where I would love to see some things. The first one is lighting. I just wish you could make lights a little bit brighter. I think you see it here with these a little bit, but it's you put lights in and they just feel not very bright. And so I think it'd be really cool if you could have some lights that were a little bit more powerful. I think I see it a little more in the area I'm working in real life, which we'll get to here probably 10, 15 episodes from now. We'll get to that. It's in our third area, and it just feels... Also, light up water. I want to do a ton of stuff with fountains, but the problem is fountains at night, you can't really see the water. The water just doesn't really reflect light very well, which is just kind of disappointing. So would love to see that go in. Ride lockers would be a big one. I think especially for water parks, obviously, whether you like them or not, they're a big part of the theme park industry nowadays. And so I think having ride lockers would be super cool, especially within the water park, because you could have them in different spots, because you need them. You come to the water park, you got a bunch of stuff, you don't want it lost, you're going to go on some water slides, you don't want your phone to get wet, so you want to throw it into a locker. So I think that'd be really cool. And I think we might go through and put some fake lockers. I haven't looked in a little while, but last I looked, there were a couple options on the workshop. They were fine. The biggest thing with them is they were expensive to build. And with a park like this, where the financial aspect is such a big deal, I just am a little hesitant to spend that much money on it immediately. Where's the restaurant? We're working on the QSR right now. I love the way this looked out. It reminds me of a restaurant. It's not like a Red Lobster, but kind of one of those kind of Red Robin, Red Lobster, Applebee's kind of vibes. But I can't really peg exactly what it is. So if you know what this kind of looks like, let me know, because it has been something that has bothered me since I built it. But it's a very simple structure, but man, I think it just looks so good. Okay, so back to kind of what I'd like to see added to the game. Arcades, would love to see arcades added to the game. Shooting dark rides were great in the first game, be great in here, but as long as they worked. I think the dispatches on the original game had some problems, and so they didn't work very well if you wanted a functional park. So I'd love to see those. Cabanas. We built some cabanas over here. I've talked about this a little bit. Would love if there was a way to get guests to actually be able to rent those out. which would just be awesome. Same with adult only areas. We're gonna work in our third area. We're gonna put in like some hot tubs and then kind of like a little back pool area with cabanas. And it'd be awesome if that could just be like a little adult only area. You could get your cabana and just kind of chill out and everything. I think that would just be awesome. Something that's really bothered me that I actually can't believe hasn't been fixed yet is guests entering at zero depth. Part of me feels like I saw that that's getting fixed in this next update, but would love to see that in the game, especially for the lazy river aspect. Splash pads. We're going to build a splash pad for kind of that center area, but it's obviously not going to be functional. So if we get a functional splash pads, which I think with the clear paths, the invisible paths, it's going to be a lot easier to kind of create those. So I think we're going to have some opportunities to do that there, which will be really cool. More lighting options, of course. Can never have too many lighting options. Scaling objects smaller would be a lot cooler. Also, some of these letters that you see, like these block letters, I think those are almost as small as they go. But if we could have a couple more options with those, that would be super cool as well. Would also love if we could build transport rides where guests didn't need to change into their dry clothes. I know I get needing dry clothes and not being in your swimsuit for like a roller coaster and flat ride and all that, but it kind of feels like if you're gonna get on like a gondola in a water park or whatever, you should be able to have your swimsuit on, and would just love to see something like that in. Much asked, won't go in depth. Hotels. I mean, you had a resort theme at release, and we don't have hotels. So definitely need some hotels. I talked a little about we're going to do hot tubs in a little bit in that kind of third themed area. It'd be awesome if you actually had hot tubs in the game. They could come in, had a little like bench on the side that guests could sit in. That would be awesome. So that would just be something that'd be really cool. And then of course, more slide options. It's been kind of interesting because this game had a big focus on water parks. And then it was all dry park updates. So we'll talk a little bit more next time. Next episode is going to be a big one. We're going to head back to Whispering Waters and wrap that up with a canopy, some signage and fencing, and then we'll head into our lake and place some different interactive obstacles into the pool for guests to interact with. And if you liked the video, make sure to leave a like. If you didn't, let me know in the comments what I can do to make them better. Even if you did, let me know what you liked about it. So that's all I've got, and we will see you tomorrow for episode 7.